Good evening, friends. After that overview of the budget from an economics angle, let's take a tour of what the budget offers from a tax angle for us. Between Tirumalai and me, will handle indirect taxes. He will take and I'll take direct taxes as in every year. What I was asked in this my office today as to what do you think of the budget from a tax point of view? There are two things I would like to say. One, the finance minister has stuck to the promise he made in the last 2 years in not destabilizing the direct tax regime in any substantial manner, not bringing in retrospective legislation, not creating avoidable complexities in the system. To that extent, he deserves credit. Also, the fact that there is not any tax benefit that is given to large corporates as it was being expected, and he has stuck to prudence. He has stuck to making sure that the system remains as stable and rational as possible. Having said that, the volume of changes that he has brought about in the direct tax regime is humongous. It is so large that running through the changes and understanding them so that one is able to talk and explain it to you took so long that there was no time to make a presentation for this evening. Such large number of changes have been suggested. Let's run through some of them. But before we do that, I would also like to say that he has also stuck to one decision that he had announced earlier, the finance minister, that there will be a specific time-bound withdrawal of SOPs, tax breaks and benefits that are available under the direct tax laws, so that concurrently government is also able to bring down the tax rate from 30% to 25% over the next 5 years. So what he has done in this budget is he has laid down a specific timetable, a schedule by which a large number of exemptions, deductions and tax breaks will be withdrawn, and most of these are for corporate taxpayers, not for the individuals, and that's an extremely laudable way of going about it. Full marks to him for that. I'll now run through some of the major proposals that he has recommended and what I think about it. First, no change in tax rates, no change in tax slabs from last year. There were some speculation that there could be an increase in the slab, the minimum threshold on which tax is not payable and so on, but he has stuck to it that there is no major change in the tax slabs. However, he has given away small handouts to individual taxpayers, and one of them is the rebate under Section 87A, where taxpayers having income of less than 5 lakhs were getting a rebate of 2,000 rupees would now get a rebate of 5,000 rupees. There is another benefit that he has passed on to individual taxpayers is the deduction that an individual taxpayer would get for house rent expense that is incurred by him when he is not entitled to a house rent allowance from the employer. And here the deduction is enhanced from 2,000 rupees a month to 5,000 rupees a month. So that again adds up to a sizable amount, and along with the rebate, it would make some difference. First-time home buyers have been entitled to an additional 50,000 rupees worth of interest deduction from the income that one gets, provided the investment in the house costs 50 lakhs or less, and the loan is sanctioned between 1st April of this year and 31st March of next year. So there is an additional 50,000 rupees of interest that one is allowed to claim from one's income if it's a small house that is being purchased and it's a first-time house. Corporate taxes have undergone a change in the sense, if a company has turnover of less than 5 crores, then instead of 30%, there is a reduced tax of 29% that would apply to that company. Basically, what the government is saying is, here is our first step in implementing a progressively lowering tax regime on companies. And therefore, they are saying for small companies to begin with, we'll start with a 1% reduction in the tax rate. Now, companies which set up manufacturing activities hereafter, after tomorrow, that is tomorrow onwards, can opt to pay a 25% tax rate. New companies which get into manufacturing or production of articles or things after tomorrow can get a tax rate, can choose to pay tax at a rate of 25% instead of 30%, provided it is willing to forego the benefits, the tax breaks that were offered to it, like additional depreciation, accelerated depreciation, expenses on scientific research being allowed to as a deduction, or investment allowance, etc. So for new companies, the finance minister is saying, I'm willing to bring in a lower 25% tax regime now without a tax benefit being available to you. Very interesting thing. All of you know that dividends have been exempt because of tax, because there is a dividend distribution tax that the companies pay at the time of distribution of dividends. When this happens, the rich taxpayers who are in the 30% tax slab end up saving a substantial amount. If the dividends were taxable in a taxpayer's hands, then the dividends would attract tax of 30%, while the dividend distribution tax would make sure that the net saving to his account is almost 15%, 10 to 15%. What the government has now done is that while the dividend distribution tax remains, on the company which is distributing the dividends, there is an additional tax of 10% that is being brought about to be paid by the taxpayer if the dividend is 10 lakhs or more. If the dividend earned is 10 lakhs or more, then a straight, simple 10% of that is of the entire dividend is an additional tax in addition to what the company pays by way of DDT. So this is something that the rich taxpayers who have made investments in equity would find a payout that's happening. I would say it's a very fair deal that the government has brought about. Now, online businesses have made tax application a complex scenario, because online businesses which sell everything over the internet, services are provided over the internet, don't get taxed in India, especially if the server is outside or the company is outside, but they serve Indian consumers. Government has now brought about an equalization levy on online businesses of an amount equal to 6% of the consideration that is collected from the Indian taxpayer. The mechanism by which this will be collected and how it will happen, what are the broad parameters of the law are yet to be brought out and specified by the government. But for the first time, the government has made a change. And this is in line with international changes in tax laws that are being proposed. We all know that startups is the flavor of the season. Prime Minister has been talking about startups. All over the place you hear startups. And the government had promised huge support to the startup ecosystem to make sure that startups are encouraged, they thrive, and they don't find it very difficult to do business. In tax laws, they've brought about 2-3 changes which I thought we should touch upon and then understand how it is done. One thing they've done is they've said that 100% of the profits of a startup shall be free of income tax in 3 out of 5 years when the startup itself is of a specified category. It requires innovation, development, deployment or commercialization of new products, and so on and so forth. And the startup should have been set up before 1st April 2019. So one thing that they have done is they are saying that 100% of a startup's tax profits would be income tax free for 3 years out of 5 years. Another thing that they've said is, another change proposed is that if a person sells his or her house property and invests to set up a startup, then the capital gains to an extent of 50,000 rupees would not attract capital gains tax, and that's making it easy for someone to be able to sell a house and invest in a startup to do that. A maximum deduction of 50,000 rupees is available. There are certain conditions like the entrepreneur should hold 50% of the shares of the company, and so on and so forth. Another thing that's happened is, for capital gains purposes, you all know that there is a possibility of investing in certain capital gains funds and claiming a deduction of 50,000 rupees. The government is setting up a startup fund and making that also eligible for you to be able to claim capital gains exemption when you have earned capital gains income, even though you are not a part of a startup ecosystem, but you could invest in those funds and claim capital gains exemption. Now, these look very nice, but they don't really address the problems of startups. Startups don't, typically good startups don't make profits in the first 5 years. At least startups that we know of don't make profits in the first 5 years. And to say that startups will not attract income tax doesn't really make it very attractive for them. There are serious tax issues that startups face. For instance, when startups get investment into their company from investors, professional investors value the company at an amount which is higher than what the assets in the balance sheet would show. Under the current tax laws, the premium that the investor pays becomes taxable income in the hands of the startup today before it has earned any income. So if I have a startup and I ask you to make an investment into my company, I have created a product and let's say a software app. And you see the app, you think that's a brilliant app. I have spent, let's say, 5 lakh rupees to create the app, but you think it's brilliant. You say, all right, I'll value your company at 2 crore rupees and make an investment of 50 lakhs. Now, according to my balance sheet, my value of my company is only 5 lakh rupees, which I have invested. But I would end up paying tax on the entire 50 lakhs minus 25% of 5 lakhs, because that is a premium that I am receiving from you. That is stupid tax laws existing today, and these have not been addressed by the government. These are serious issues that startups face. And then if you see the budget, startups have huge problems of compliance with 100 regulations. None of these have been addressed, not at least through this budget or in the last 1 month since we have seen startups being talked about by the government. So one hopes those are addressed and addressed quickly. While these are welcome, these have limited value in a startup mechanism. I'll come to a few other things which might interest some of you and wrap it up quickly. One is there is a new law brought about for taxing professionals on a presumptive basis. That is, if there is a professional who is engaged in the practice of medicine, law, architecture, accounting, interior designing, and so on and so forth. There are a specific list of professions, and the gross receipts of that professional are 50 lakhs or less. Then, if the professional is agreeable to say that I will treat 50% of my revenue as income and pay tax on it, then he doesn't need to maintain accounts, he doesn't need to get the accounts audited, he doesn't need to be subjected to an assessment. There is a presumed income of 50% of the gross receipts and taxes payable on that. So there is a presumptive taxation for professionals that is brought about. I must say that there are already a few sections under which presumptive taxation is applicable to small construction companies and so on and so forth. Now, for businesses, tax audit limits have been increased from 1 crore to 2 crores. Several of you would be going through tax audits. For professionals, the tax audit limits have gone up from 25 lakhs to 50 lakhs. So also for businesses who are on presumptive taxation, the limit has gone from 1 to 2 crores. Now there are 2-3 major changes that I thought we should discuss. One is, I'll not go into details of this, but the government has brought about what they call a dispute resolution mechanism. A dispute resolution system is where you have a dispute with the income tax department in relation to an assessment or an penalty that has been levied on you. You are in appeal, and under certain circumstances, you go and say that, all right, I'm willing to accept this assessment, provided the matter is closed, no further prosecution or penalty is levied, and so on and so forth, in which case you could make that surrender, pay the tax on it, and get the matter closed. There is a 25% minimum penalty also that you have to pay, but you can buy peace and close this matter. This is similar to the Kar Vivad Samadhan scheme that came about some 15-20 years back. Broadly similar, not really identical. Now, two changes are being brought about in the system relating to tax deduction at source and tax collection at source. I will not take you through the specific details of changes in TDS, because several provisions of TDS have been altered, where thresholds have changed, and certain couple of small items which had become inconsequential have been removed. Rates have changed, rates have been reduced, rates have been increased. You'll look it up in the newspapers tomorrow, but mind you that there is streamlining of provisions on TDS. There is also another mechanism which is similar to TDS, which is called TCS, tax collection at source. And that has been existing on sale of items like liquor, scrap, coal, bullion, etc. This budget provides for two changes to be done. When you are selling a vehicle to someone and you collect 10 lakh rupees or more, then you are required to also collect tax from him which he should be paying. You are collecting his tax which he should be paying of 1% and depositing it with the government. There is already a TCS mechanism for certain transactions. They have extended it to vehicles of about 10 lakhs or more. But more interestingly, on sale of any goods or services worth more than 2 lakhs on which no TDS is payable, right? So you are required to apply and the TCS provisions and make a tax collection when you make a sale of 2 lakhs or more on any goods or services which is not covered by TDS. This could cover a whole lot of transactions which we don't anticipate yet today. I'll end with 2 or 3 things. There is a change brought about for charitable organizations which close down or merge at the end of their lives. And not go into details except mentioning it. There is a huge rationalization of time that is available to you to make file returns. Now you can't file a return beyond 31st March of the assessment year itself. So earlier you had a time of an additional year. That has now gone. You have to file your returns during these assessment years or not file them at all. So that's one. So also the time available for assessments, reassessments has undergone substantial change. All this is, tightening up the entire tax administration mechanism. Government has also, in fact, the finance minister talked about it in the speech, made electronic correspondence with the tax officer, between the tax officer and the taxpayer possible, giving it a legal framework where one could send out submissions by email, one could submit documents by email, and they become actually accepted legally, and notices are sent by email by the officer. This is now making it possible for assessments to be done, tax proceedings to be done without really seeing the officer. Very interesting, and one needs to see how it actually pans out in practice. I'll end with 2 major changes that government has, the finance minister has proposed. One is the entire mechanism of penalties on underreported income or misreported income has been overhauled. There is now a new section brought about which levies penalty for any enhancement to your return income that happens in a non-discretionary way. Very little discretion is now given to the officer, and it there are 2 classes of reasons for which penalties could be levied. One is underreported income, where the taxpayer is not at fault, not at an intentional fault, and one where there is a misrepresentation of income because the taxpayer hid something. And there is a fixed penalty that is leviable, which goes right to 100% of the tax that was that could be done. There is a formula that is put in place, and that formula needs to be applied to arrive at the penalty that is payable. That's a substantial change that the penalty provisions have brought about. I have gone through. Finally, there is an income declaration scheme that the government has proposed. You would have heard about it with the finance minister talking about it, and it is here where the finance minister says that if you have not declared your income before this, I am giving you an opportunity to come forth and make a declaration of your income which has not been declared, provided you are not covered with certain specified criteria. A notice is not issued to you, a search has not been conducted on you, a survey has not been conducted on you, and so on and so forth. Pay a total amount equal to 45% of the amount you are declaring. 45%. That includes tax, interest, penalty, and so on and so forth. And you will be free of any inquiries or penalty or prosecution in addition to what you have paid, over and above what you have paid. So there is an income declaration scheme that the government has proposed, and we are awaiting some more details of that. But this is a repetition of an earlier amnesty scheme, the VDIS that was disclosed, that was brought about, except that it looks simpler with fewer possibilities of it being misused. But we need to see over the next month or so how it undergoes changes, what how the details are brought about, what notifications are brought about, and then we could come to a more a clearer understanding of the scheme itself. So the number of changes in the finance bill are huge, humongous. Several are new. I have covered just about 50% of the changes which I thought could be of interest and relevance to all of you. There is another 50% changes which I thought were more applicable to either corporate entities or foreign businesses or specialized businesses and so on, which I thought may not be of relevance in this gathering. So this is what it is for Direct Access, friends. Thank you very much.